Hello everybody and welcome to the next GradCracker webinar featuring Admiral. So Admiral advertises their graduate opportunities on GradCracker and currently has positions live that you can apply for. So Admiral have been with us for years and years and years and years, and I'm really pleased to welcome the panel today, Daniel, George and Adam, who all found their roles at Admiral through GradCracker. So there's lots of information on their company hub, so make sure you check that out after the webinar to find out a little bit more. So Sam joins us today. Sam is the Graduate Recruitment Officer. Can you tell us a bit more about your role and Admiral in general, please, Sam?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Sam. I'm the Graduate and Analyst Recruitment Officer here at Admiral. Bit about Admiral initially, we're a financial services and insurance company. We're probably one of the most refreshing companies in this industry, I would say, in terms of our culture and our values. We sell a range of products ranging from motor to household and multi-cover insurance, and generally have a lot of other exciting things ongoing as well in terms of other entities within the company. So we've got other things such as our financial services company, AFSL, and Pioneer, which is a really exciting entity as part of Admiral. But whistle stop, we are insurance.
Yeah.
In terms of a bit about me, I joined virtually last year during the pandemic. Joined completely virtual, but still got a real good feel for that Admiral culture that we all shout about. My role primarily focuses looking after pricing recruitment, but I do pitching with other recruitment related things as well, and heavily our grad recruitment. So I work and I've met Dan, George and Adam quite a bit now. So yeah, that's just a bit about me, I guess.
And any hints and tips, Sam, so from people joining companies virtually, what hints and tips would you give from somebody who's maybe got more experience in the industry to students who might be joining virtually in September?
That's a really good question.
Sorry, that was completely on the spot as well.
that is fine. Joining virtually, you know, it's a completely different way of being what we would call onboarded into a.
Oh, I thought that was me. Have we lost that? Oh no, we're back.
Oh, you're back.
Sorry,
start that again.
I've got unstable connection. Zoom's now telling me.
Oh, bless you. No, that's fine.
It's try to get stuck into things as much as you can, as you would in the office. For example, we will be arranging things such as like coffee meetings and coffee catch-ups and having team activities and fun, albeit virtual. And you know, don't be afraid to join those meetings and get stuck in and, you know, have your camera on, turn your mic off, get involved in those conversations and do your best to put yourself out there and not hide behind your camera, which is really easily done virtually, I find. Because going into the office, if you're going over to like, you know, a water cooler, for example, and someone else is at the same time, you can't really hide from that person and have that conversation. So try not to hide when you join those virtual meetings, and utilize our platforms like Teams and, you know, email, ask questions as much as you would. You know, we're here as colleagues to support you virtually just as much as we would in the office. So I guess my biggest message would be, although it's virtual, you don't have to make it feel virtual. You can really put yourself out there still, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll definitely second putting cameras on. It's kind of like if you're in your office walking around with a bag on your head, you wouldn't do that, would you? So don't do that. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but you know, have your cameras on, and I think that goes through everything during the application process. If you're attending like one of Jessica's presentations that she does on campus, thanks Jess, I thought I'd say that for you, and make sure you definitely have your cameras on. This year, Sam, so when will the graduates be starting? Do you have different start dates? And how are they starting? Is that in person or is that still virtual?
So it's still a bit vague in terms of depending on the time of year that you'd start. Things change very quickly, as I think we've all gathered over the past 2 years. Currently, a lot of our onboarding is being done remotely. So how that would look is, you know, lots of points of contact leading up to your start, where we touch base with you, myself as the recruiter and the hiring managers and the wider team. You know, you get involved with the WhatsApp groups that we have ongoing and just try to get you, you know, really integrated, although it may be a virtual onboarding experience. it may depend if later in the year you're joining. By that point in time, we may be a lot more back in the office. So your first day may be in the office, but if it's within the next few months, I anticipate it'd be a bit more virtual. In terms of start dates as well, very flexible. It depends on the role that you apply for, but I know a lot of what we call our direct entry graduate roles, very flexible with start dates. So if your studies were completing, say, more towards September, that's fine. We can look at more autumn start dates. If you've already completed your studies, we can look at, start dates from here onwards. And if you're finishing your studies in the summer, we'd work with you in establishing the best start date off the back of you completing your studies. So yeah, I think flexibility is key in my message there.
Definitely. Flexibility is key, and also get your applications in. I think that's a seconder to your message. And I know you mentioned about Admiral, you're not just an insurance company doing much more, but are there any other common misconceptions that you kind of want to get out in the open about Admiral as part of this webinar?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. I think people hear insurance and finance and they think, oh my God, that sounds boring. Because, you just see it as quoted, again, policy quotes. And when you're out as a customer, that's the end of it you tend to see. But as far as Admiral as a company, we're not corporate. Yeah. You really don't get that hierarchical feel or corporate environment that you may get in other companies. And I can really scream and shout and echo that. Yeah. Egos left at the door. In our offices, some places you may see a head of department have their own glass office looking through to everyone else in the wider office. You've got your heads of departments sat right next to you in an open plan office, and everyone in that sense is really, really approachable. So I think, just not corporate in the slightest, I guess is what I'd like to put out there. And it's a lot more exciting as well. Graduates joining us get to make a real impact. You're not given like small bits of work, you're given real chunky bits of work with responsibility that has an impact on our products, on our rating. I'm speaking a bit more pricing in particular here, but you do have a genuine impact on the business as well. And I think us being such a large company, you are still a really big part of that cog and getting things moving forward. So yeah, there's some concepts that I like to just throw out the window and make sure people are confused with.
I love that. I want to, I think in the first 8 minutes of the webinar, so you've done a perfect job of selling Admiral. So we're going to move on now and meet the grads, which I'm really excited to meet. So Dan, I'm going to start, as at the beginning, I'm going to call you Daniel, and now I'm just calling you Dan. Dan, just tell us a little bit more about yourself. Why did you choose to apply for Admiral, and where did you go to university? And also, what did you study?
So first about the university, I went to Aberystwyth University and I did a degree in maths. Moving on from that, I wanted to start a career in something mathematically related. So I decided to go for Admiral as an analyst. I felt like this has been a good choice because it means that I do get to use some of the skills that I learned on my degree, and I feel like I'm making progress and learning. So like every week I'm learning something new. It's been really good.
And how long have you been at Admiral then?
About 7 or 8 months. I can't quite remember. It's all been flying by.
It's all a blur. You've must be enjoying yourself. Thanks very much, Dan. On to you, George. So similar question: why choose Admiral? Where did you go to uni, and what did you study?
So I went to uni at Royal Holloway, and I studied maths. And I chose Admiral because this seems like a really cheap thing to say, but they actually do try and make a difference in the community. So we've had several webinars throughout the whole of Admiral, and there's this guy, I think his name's Andy, and he always talks about how he loves to, Admiral will pay him to take a day off work to go and do charity work. So they actually do push for making a difference in the local community and going for charity and everything. So that's important to me. So
Is that something that anybody can do as part of being at Admiral?
I think you might. I'm not sure if it's everybody. I think you may have had to pass probation, but that's.
Oh well.
So
we'll say everyone will pass.
We'll say exactly. I mean, so I'm like, everybody.
Tell you to do HR.
So if we did HR well, that means I'm like, oh, I don't, no comment, no comment. Thanks very much, George. Adam, similar question to you, please.
Yep, no worries. So I'm the old one in the group, apparently, because I've been here for just over 2 years now. So I actually joined whilst we were still in the office at the end of 2019. So I went to university at Heriot-Watt in Edinburgh. I grew up in Edinburgh as well, and was kind of looking to leave Edinburgh, try a new city, move somewhere different. So that was one of the big appeals of Admiral. And then alongside everything that everyone else has been saying about, culture and being able to use my degree in the role. I studied maths as well. I think we've got a very maths heavy panel, but I think it's worth saying that we've got people on our team that have done all sorts of things from, chemistry, physics, all sorts of kind of anything that gives you kind of an analytical mindset, I think is perfectly able to do our job. We don't often use, some of the more advanced concepts that maybe you do in your degree studies, but anyone that's able to kind of look through numbers, investigate them, and kind of look deeper behind patterns, I think is definitely someone that would fit in well with the team.
Glad that you said that, Adam, because I know we're a little bit mathsy today, but Admiral will accept all STEM. So anybody from a STEM background, Admiral will look for an application from you. I love the way, Adam, that you say, you're one of the older ones. Me and Jess have done a combined total of 22 years at GradCracker this year, haven't we, Jess?
Yeah, 22 years.
22 years. I was going to say we definitely win on that one. So now key fact time, please, about Admiral. And Sam, I'm going to come back to you.
I got to start strong now with a good fact, haven't I?
That's why you've gone first.
I only found this out when I joined, in all honesty, guys, and I was going through some of my induction modules, but I learned part of the reason our brand was called Admiral was to get that letter A in there first, because, well, we're speaking about age here. I'm not sure how relevant the yellow pages now are, but when we started, Admiral's actually a very good tactic in terms of brand name to get us appearing first in the yellow pages. So A for Admiral, we'd appear very, very quickly, I guess, as you flick through the yellow pages. And if you're not aware of our other brands as well, you would see it follows with our other brands. So Bell, Diamond, so like A, B, C, and we work our way through the alphabet, I guess.
Well, top of the list, Sam. Dan?
So just before I started, I found out that Admiral was the only FTSE 100 company in Wales. It's pretty cool working for like a very large company, but it feels like a small company, especially the team structure. It's a very communal sort of company to work for.
Thanks. And I'm going to put stuff on. I'm sorry if I've missed this, but how many people in total do we say that worked at Admiral? Have we said the figure?
11,000 now, isn't it?
11,000.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh, I didn't even realise you were that big. I didn't realise that many people were for Admiral.
Huge.
We're international as well, which I think may come up as a fact that I'm saying.
We've got panic faces. Sam, shh. I can't remember if it was Adam or George, but both the faces just dropped. So that is TBC. George, top fact.
So when COVID kicked off and everything, Admiral actually gave back about £110 million to people who are on insurance, for car insurance, as sort of a stay-at-home refund, just because no one was driving their cars. So they were like, we're making too much money, so we'll give some back, which I thought was you'd think would be counterintuitive for business, but I thought it was quite nice.
You don't hear that often, do you? Thanks, George. Adam, you must be the location man.
I'm doing the international stuff, Yeah, so I think a lot of people are aware of Admiral as being kind of a UK insurance company, but we actually are in 5 different countries. So we're in the US, Spain, France, Italy, as well as the UK. And we have kind of comparison sites as well as insurers in a lot of different countries. And for whatever reason, our international companies seem to follow a very animal focused theme. So we've got elephant in the US, so obviously very similar to elephant in the UK. But then we've also got a price comparison site in Spain called Riastro, which is a little sausage dog that sniffs out the best prices. Apparently, I think that was the reason behind it. And Little Lynx in France, which is a cat-based mascot. Again, don't know what the reasoning behind that is, but apparently animals are the way to go.
There'll be a reason. So thinking about the international part of the business, Sam, from a graduate point of view, can they go and work abroad, or is it specifically in the UK?
Good question. I may need Adam's help here on this one as well, in all honesty.
Yeah.
But where you'd primarily be based in like HQ, which is Cardiff, you know, I believe with some of the roles, it offers that opportunity to, you know, go and travel and visit the international operations. Of course, right now, it's a bit vague because of COVID, and it's probably not been presented as well of an opportunity over the past 2 years with travel restrictions, etc. But am I correct in saying that, Adam?
Yeah, basically. So yeah, so I'm working international pricing. I'm jumping around a bit the script here.
Sorry, sorry, Adam.
No, you're right. So I work in international pricing. My focus is on the US side of the business, but we've got people that are kind of more dedicated to Spain, France, and Italy as well. And so, yeah, as Sam said, there are kind of opportunities to go and visit those other offices. I was able to visit the US right before COVID hit in February 2020. And I know in the last kind of 6 months or so before the Omicron wave picked up, people were able to visit France and Spain as well. And there's kind of early works for us to be able to go back to the US again. So yeah, I think those are tend to be kind of shorter term trips, kind of a couple of weeks or a month or so. But we have had people that have spent time in the UK, have got to know a country very well, and then have kind of moved to that country and moved to work with them permanently. So I think that is an option as well. It's much less common, and I think with visas and things, it's a bit more complicated, but there is that opportunity as well, I think.
I think Jess will be delving a little bit deeper about your experiences a little bit later on, Adam. So thank you very much for that. So Sam, before we go on and meet the grads in a little bit more detail, tell the students who are watching about the opportunities that are currently live on your hub on GradCracker that they can apply for.
Of course, so you'll be able to see all these opportunity guys on GradCracker, and they're very, you know, great STEM opportunities, as we've mentioned, which welcome all STEM applicants. And the one that I look after in particular is a graduate price analyst position, where we're recruiting for a number of these throughout the year. So where I mentioned those flexible start dates, lots of opportunities in pricing. We also have actuarial graduate programs running right now, and you'll see it on GradCracker. Junior telematics data analyst roles, data assurance specialist, and this one's a bit wordy, but metadata and documentation specialist, and a graduate actuarial trainee, so more actuarial again, but trainee position. And yeah, generally just great opportunities for STEM students.
Perfect. And I know you touched upon before, Sam, about start dates and things like that, and the fact that you are really quite flexible. Are there any timelines that students need to be aware of that you want to highlight as part of the webinar?
Good question. With our direct entry roles, the ones I've mentioned, they can be a little bit flexible in their start date, in all honesty. The price analyst role in particular, I anticipate will be open for quite a while, but of course, the sooner you get your application in, the better. Yeah. And so that's a bit flexible in terms of closing dates, etc. But in terms of what to expect, these roles will pop up throughout the year as well. If you look on GradCracker, you'll see the closing date clearly advertised. So my advice would be to like make note of that closing date to make sure you don't miss it, or think I'm going to do my application by X and then you miss it. I'm going off on a tangent here now as well. But some key like time scales to be aware of. You know, we'll sift your application within 2 to 3 working days of you making it, and then after that initial sift, typically for these STEM roles, you will need to do a pricing test, or numeracy test is what we call it. And you need to do that within 3 days as well. So that can like give an idea of time scales. So it can take a couple of weeks sometimes from application to get an offer, hopefully.
Yeah, perfect. So a couple of messages there then. They've got jobs live at the moment, so make sure you get your applications in. Like Sam says, they do open their opportunities throughout the year. So if there isn't something that tickles your taste buds at the moment, make sure you follow them, and then we'll alert you to the fact that they've got new opportunities open via email and push notification. I did have another nag, but I can't remember what it is, but it'll come back to me. Yes. Jessica, see, I told you we've got the same brain. Shortlist. So don't forget as well, like Sam mentioned, you can save the job to your shortlist on GradCracker, then you'll be alerted about deadlines and things like that. Then the job is safe in your dashboard. So when, hopefully, fingers crossed, you do get an interview, you can go back and look at the job description as well and pick out the key points that Sam and her team have made as part of the application process.
Boom.
Super. Boom.
Daniel.
In case you weren't listening, Daniel, Jess wants to talk to you.
Tell me about your role.
So I'm a fraud,
like for you.
I'm a fraud analyst, and basically my job is to use data to help the investigators catch people committing fraud. As you can imagine, we get hundreds of thousands of claims a week, and it's pretty hard for someone to like go through that all the time. So what we do is we use like computer systems to kind of catch certain criterias that we believe might be more fraudulent. So for example, someone makes a claim within a week of getting their policy, we could be, well, that seems a bit dodgy. And then that'll get passed on to another team who will check if that's fraud. So my job's pretty interesting in that sense. Like it's pretty cool getting to like fight financial crime in that way. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Does it make you quite cynical?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you have to be like sort of take a moment, like you sort of have to just look at the numbers and be like, oh well, this is really bad. Like sorry, I don't even have to word it.
But you've got to be quite clinical, haven't you? So
Yeah,
it's like the numbers need to speak to you, like kind of remove your emotions almost and just think, right, but it's black and white, the numbers don't lie. I've got my MD in my head saying numbers don't lie, Kyle, numbers don't lie.
It leads to some like pretty interesting conclusions, so it's really pretty good to look at.
And do you get to see the whole case and like what happened, why they're claiming their insurance or
the investigators do, but if it's something really interesting, because the departments talk quite closely to each other, we tend to just sort of share the stories with each other. For example, actually I'll tell that in my next question. I've got a story.
Oh, I'm excited to hear that story.
I was going to say you share best practice, but
oh no, it's not. There's no names or anything. Don't worry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, but we'll come back to you, Daniel, on that, and we'll get some gossip off you and see how awful some humans can really be. George, going to come to you next. If you could tell us a bit about your role and what life's like for you at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm a household risk pricing analyst. So my job is broad strokes is to decide what should drive up the price of house insurance. So it can be anything from what the building's made of, down to the roof type, down to, it gets to really specific things. Like sometimes people who, that's probably a bit too specific, but if people have open claims, like you can you should charge them more, because it's kind of hard to explain because I'm not sure how much detail I can go into.
No, don't worry.
That's fine.
So I bet in terms of the kind of skills and stuff that you've picked up quite quickly, then I bet there's almost a bit of like a civil constructural side that you've probably had to pick up quite quickly and to understand, have you?
Yeah, so especially being someone who's never bought house insurance, to learn this stuff about house insurance so quickly was a bit of a bit of a trial, to be honest, but it's good fun, and it's no one knows everything. No one, even the manager who's been there 10-15 years, he admits that he doesn't know everything about house insurance, but we've got so much detail and so many resources to use if needed.
So tell us a bit about your team then, George. How does that look? Obviously, you're saying you obviously work quite closely with your manager. Tell us a bit about what life is like as part of your team.
Yeah, so I'm on quite a small team because Admiral are trying to grow the household department at the moment. So I think my team's only been split off in the past few years, the risk pricing team. So there's 13 of us, but 4 of us joined at the same time in September.
Right.
So it's definitely a new team, but it's, as soon as you get into a core, as soon as you meet people, it's not like the I don't know, I used to work at pubs and the boss always acted like he was the boss.
Yeah.
The managers here are here to help you, and the seniors are here to help you. And like, if you have any issues, it's never a problem to bring it up.
That's
But
good.
there's quite a good rapport between everyone, and definitely banter that sometimes goes a bit far. But
That's what we
part
like.
of the fun.
I'm just thinking, George, you're probably the person who makes my house insurance so expensive. It's like asbestos, tick, damp, tick. And you're like, yep.
Singling you out specifically.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, George. Adam, on to you next. Same question, if that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm a senior international pricing analyst within international pricing. So as I mentioned before, so my role is fairly similar to George's. I focus on the motor side of risk, so cars mostly, but my work is mostly done on the US side, so that's Elephant, who are over in the US. So work with them, like most of my day is dedicated to working with them. Thankfully, I'm able to still keep to UK time zones, so I don't have to stay up crazy late and do meetings with them. So that's
good.
Definitely handy. But yeah, as George said, it's a lot of kind of looking at previous claims data, looking at people's performances and deciding whether their prices should go up or down. I think that is an important thing to say. We do also put prices down.
Yes.
We just put prices up, but they do go down as well. I think people are less likely to talk about when their prices go down than maybe when their prices go up. But yeah, so a lot of my work is done with the US team, but in international pricing, we're still kind of a team in and of ourselves. So talking with a lot of people from other countries, discussing what they're doing, how that could maybe influence what we want to do in the US and in the UK as well. So taking kind of information from the UK and applying it to other countries as well as the other way around, and just kind of sharing all that information between us.
Brilliant. And I've got some questions for you, Aaron, but so just to go back, because you say you've been there 2 years, have you kind of gone into this role and this has been your role for 2 years? Have you done previous roles since the role that you're in now? How has that looked? What's the 2 years look like for you so far?
Yeah, so I came in as a graduate pricing analyst, the same as anyone else would if they were to apply today, and so started on that role from day one, and then got made senior about 6 months ago now. Thanks. So yeah, so as I say, this is the exact type of role that anyone could come into from GradCracker, and yeah, that's kind of where I got to.
Your kind of career journey now would probably be something similar that George and Daniel will do, kind of in their own worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure how kind of all the formats work in the different departments. I think different departments do things maybe a little bit differently, but yeah, in terms of I think the general path, yeah, I think it's probably very similar.
That's good that you've been made senior and within 2 years, sorry. So that's really impressive. So well done. So it obviously shows that the Admiral are wanting to do that. They're wanting to progress you. They're wanting to move you forward. Next question was just about, I guess you're all kind of a bit similar in sense of working on something which you might not, know much about. I guess, Adam, you've never lived in America. So, how do you kind of do that, working on a project, working on something, in an area which, I know you say you visited, but have you found that challenging? Have you found that hard? And how have the team helped you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot to learn. And you say, I've never lived in America. I also don't have a driver's license, so I've never driven before either. So there's 2 birds. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge at the start. There's a lot to kind of learn. I think with Admiral in particular, in terms of our pricing, we value kind of a common sense level as well as whatever the numbers are telling you. So I know you were mentioning before about kind of just, what the numbers say is true and we have to trust the numbers. That's true to an extent, but I think there's also a part of let's think as humans as well. Let's have a think and see whether what we're seeing actually makes sense. Because if it was just let's look at that number and that number decides it, we'd probably all be out of a job because a computer could just go through and do what we do. So I think that human aspect is something that we really value. And I think that is something, going all the way back to the misconceptions question, it's not just kind of doing the same thing every day and plugging the same numbers in over and over again, because every project that you take is going to be different and is going to require a slightly different approach. So yeah, it keeps things interesting. It means that you're not just doing the same thing over and over again.
That's actually a really good point, Adam, because I think, yeah, you do. That is a massive misconception that it would just be the same thing. But, you go back to your point, George, what you guys were doing last year, not a lot of people were in the cars last year driving around. So last year for you looked completely different to what it's looking like now, and everyone's back out again doing things, moving houses, buying new cars, all the stuff. And yeah, I bet it changes all the time. I suppose I never really thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our challenges going forward is how we deal with 2020 as a year, right? Because usually we look back on the last couple of years and use that data to decide what we want to do in the future. But because 2020 was so weird and such an anomaly, how do we use that going forward?
Yeah, definitely. And of all the new cars that are coming onto the market as well, that's the other thing, like the hybrid electrics and all this stuff. So yeah, it's exciting actually when you think of it like that. So Daniel, I'm going to come back to you because I want to talk about some of the projects and things that you've been working on, and I'm excited to hear about this story that you're going to tell us. I hope it's a good one.
So, one of the largest projects I've been working on a couple of weeks ago. We've been using modeling to figure out the likelihood of someone committing fraud. I can't get too much into it, but we work quite close with another department called Advanced Analytics, and that's a big part of Admiral, I feel, like a cross-department working, because everyone has skills that they're more suited for in different parts, and it allows for really good things to happen. And from this model, it's quite fresh, we haven't really done much with it yet. But we've been able to directly help people stop their identities getting stolen.
Oh, amazing! Oh, wow, yeah.
It's really rewarding thing to happen, because I think it must suck getting it stolen.
Oh, yeah.
But
a bit lightly, yeah.
There's a bit of a misconception that when people commit insurance fraud, it's they're a massive company. It doesn't matter. Them losing £500 is nothing. But the issue is that saving that loss ends up going on to everyone eventually. I think it's roughly £50 of your premium is spent is there because of fraudsters.
Oh, really?
Really?
So yeah, it feels quite good working on projects and stuff that helps to sort of minimize that, to help people be more safer as well, because so that's one of the projects I've been working on. So it feels really good working on something that has a direct positive impact in people's lives, not just making money,
Yeah.
It seems to be quite a common thread through Admiral already. Daniel, you're saying almost the corporate side of what you're doing, but George, you're saying, the volunteering side, and, and Sam, really what you've said as well about the business as a whole. You all have a bit of a family feel, peers working together. It seems to be a bit of a running through for the actual work you do to the projects and what life is like there, which just seems really, really nice. So that's really good, Daniel. Do you know a stat on average how many claims you get are fraudulent?
I have no idea. Truth be told, sorry.
No, don't worry. It's just out of interest, really.
Yeah, it depends on the rules, to be honest. It depends on what criteria we're looking for, because it can vary by loads. There is an external institution called the Insurance Fraud Bureau, and what they'll do is they'll give out bulletins saying, "Oh, look into this, look into that." And sometimes we can get hundreds of cases that are like that, or we can get 2 or 3. It really varies.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, George, coming to you next. Projects that you've been working on so far since you've been at Admiral.
So I've been with Admiral for 6 months, and you spend the first 2.5 months largely training, sort of preparing before you move into your team. So in the last 3 months, I've been allowed to collaborate with others on cross-product variables, which is household and motor.
Okay. Yeah.
To sort of find what's predictive and what's not, which is, job description.
Yeah.
I've also been able to head up my own projects. So I was trusted to, which kind of shocked me because I'd only been there a month at this point, but I was trusted to lead a project to investigate a new pricing tool, do all the research into it, and decide whether or not as a company, we're going to use it. So it was in the end, it was not a good tool at all. It was, which was a shame, but it was nice to be given that that trust and make the final decision, even though you've been there such a short period of time, which was.
Walk me through that a bit. So obviously you get given this product to look at. How did you have to test it? Did you have to, report back your results? Did you have to do a presentation? How did all that bit look for you? What did you have to do?
So a lot of it was checking their data against ours, which was not easy because they advertised that they had an API, but they just didn't. So I thought it was going to be an easy side-by-side check, and it was about a week's worth of work.
And for anyone that doesn't know, George, what's an API?
So it's when the computers talk to each other, it's basically having a database that you can just search from the off.
Right, okay.
So it's not, it would have been a lot easier than clicking onto different links on this website.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the way through. But so with that, I've lost my train of thought entirely there.
Saying about you doing the testing, looking at it.
Yeah.
Was it any good?
So it was a lot of checking their data against ours and seeing if they had anything that we didn't have. So there's occasions where we get sent queries from the queries department, and we don't have anything about their street on our system. We don't have any information, so we have to decline cover because we don't have that information.
Right.
The hope was we could use this tool to find that information, but it turned out that they had even less than us most of the time.
Oh, no.
So
Oh, really?
in the end, it just wasn't helpful, but I got to write up a report and send it off to my manager's manager, which was a bit of a step because that feels like the big boss. But
Yeah. Well, that's good though, and all that within the first month. So it just shows how much responsibility they're putting on you, and wanting to hear your opinion and value your opinion as well, which is brilliant. So well done, George. And I'm going to come to you next. Projects that you've been working on so far.
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest project I've been involved in, similar to what Daniel was saying about kind of analytics and machine learning. So one of our analysts in international pricing actually had made a model which would basically take a bunch of information about a vehicle and then predict how risky it was going to be and essentially predict how much it would cost if it got into an accident to repair that vehicle.
Right.
And so we've been working on it for a while now. It ended up being a much longer process than I think we initially thought it was going to be. But that model actually ended up going live about 2 weeks ago now in the US. So
well done.
The idea behind it is that now if any new vehicle comes on cover, we get a whole bunch of information about it. It can be like where the airbags are, how heavy the car is, what it's made of, how many seats it's got, all of this kind of information. And then the model will use all of that information to make a prediction on how much it's going to cost to repair. And then for the cheaper vehicles, we're able to discount their price overall. And then for the more expensive vehicles, we have to increase their price to cover the costs that are going to come in. And so that project is, as I say, been ongoing for a while now, but is finally live in the US now.
Oh, that is brilliant. Well done. Again, it's stuff you don't think about, do you? Because I bet obviously like geographically, getting a car repaired in one location could cost one price, could be exactly the same car, same model, but then you get it repaired to someone else, different price. And then, oh gosh, yeah, it's loads that you don't think about, isn't it? You just think, car insurance, home insurance, another thing off the list. But yeah, interesting. So well done for that. I know we're going to talk next about learning and development.
Yes, I want to look back to Sam now, if that's okay, Sam. Just to speak about, I know that we've kind of touched on it with the grads, but for the first few months, when a grad starts at Admiral, what's it going to look like for them? What kind of training and support is on offer for those first couple of months?
Question. I may speak from a bit more of a general perspective.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
If any of the guys want to jump in with what they've found, but in a nutshell, graduates who join us are fully supported in terms of transitioning from studies, education into that world of work. It's a big change jumping from studying into a full-time role, I anticipate, and they're fully supported in that. So firstly, what I'd like to make everyone aware of is training can be tailored and really set to an individual's pace as well. So I can't say X week you'll be doing this, and so on. So it can really be tailored to that person's pace. So it can vary for everyone, and it can be a little bit unique to an individual joining. You can expect to have things such as induction modules, so you can get really up to speed with, you know, some Admiral knowledge and about the business, even not specific to your role, just general Admiral knowledge, and picking up those key facts like I have about the yellow pages, for example. So you'll have induction with our academy, basically, so you're fully up to speed about, you know, what Admiral's all about, and get a real good feel for how we've grown, what's happened, you know, up to date. This is a bit of an Admiral term, but we call it port to call, short POCs, and we arrange a lot of POCs with various stakeholders and departments. So although you may join pricing, you may work with other key stakeholders and departments in the business, or just need to have knowledge about those other departments in the business. So you'll have ports of calls with them as well. So you meet with the real people of that department, not just someone delivering induction, to get to know what they do, who you can go to help for, and generally just start building relationships across the business as well. So you're brought up to speed with Admiral, you start, you know, engaging with wider people across the business, so you know who you can go to for help, so payroll or PS, which is known as HR in other companies. So you just get all those points of contacts and relationships built as well. And other things such as, you know, buddy schemes. So for example, you can pair up with another analyst, so you can discuss work, really get your teeth stuck into something and have someone to bounce off. So that's another support method offered in Admiral as well. Generally it's just lots and lots of support available on offer, I think.
it seems it. So you've got a long list there. So if a student is successful, then, so for example, you make that a fantastic phone call after this webinar to say, yep, you've got the job, you're starting in a couple of months' time. Do you keep in touch? So 2 questions here. So do you keep in touch with that graduate or student between now and the start date? First question. Second question, if it is a start date in the future, so for example, maybe September time, is there any hints and tips that you could give the students about how they could prepare? You know, could they be doing some research in something? And this isn't necessarily just for Sam, you know, grads, you've been there, done that yourselves. Is there anything that they could be doing just to put themselves ahead a little bit before the start date?
Good questions. So in terms of keeping in touch, so that I'll cover that off first, which might be a bit more specific for me, being the recruiter. We have a lot of like touch points with you leading up to the start, whether that's a phone call, email. Something we really like to emphasize as recruitment officers we're here leading up to that start date. So anything you need at any point, all it takes is a quick email and we can jump on a phone call with you. Line managers will start getting in touch as well, so you know, they may drop you an email, so you've got their contact details and give you their, you know, their mobile, so you can like text them if you need anything, or you may join a WhatsApp group, and that's also another way of communicating with your team and members of the department leading up to your start date as well. So yeah, it can be really flexible in terms of us just always keeping in touch and communicating. And we try to introduce people who are joining perhaps around the same time to each other as well. So if 2 grads got the same start date, I may make a bit of an email introduction, so you've got another name, so you know someone else who's going through the exact same journey as you, and you'll know who that person is on your first day, for example. So yeah, a few ways of keeping in touch leading up to that start. In terms of hints and tips to help you prepare to join, I get asked this a lot, and I typically then will go to the manager or the line manager going, you know, what can this person do leading up to this start? So I'm going to probably defer this to the guys on the call and see if they've got any advice perhaps for any students joining.
George has been smiling all the way through what you've just said, Sam, so I don't know if George has got some experiences that he want to share.
It's just so Sam actually recruited me, and I can remember all of these steps.
I thought you were smiling.
Yeah, it's just like it was like remembering all these steps of just emailing and going, I've got a few questions, can I call you? And she would call back like half an hour later. It was just but it's so I started with 7 other people on my same start date, which was quite a large group. Generally there's sort of I think 2 or 3 from the months afterwards. 2 or 3 started a month, but we all got in contact before we started. Spent the first week on video calls and then met up at the pub. So it was it's definitely just, I would say, just don't be afraid to be yourself. Admiral really does value individuality, so just don't be afraid to be yourself and you'll be all right.
That's value reminiscing.
Yeah, that was
that was quite sweet, Sam. That says a lot about you and your personality as well. So from a preparing point of view then, grads, is there anything that you would suggest, maybe specifically to your roles, or just as, you know, graduates who've been to university and started at Admiral, if there's anything that you would do to prepare?
And Carla, just to add to that, I was going to ask you, George, if you don't mind me asking you, putting you on the spot, what kind of questions were you asking Sam? Because there might even be like almost those unknown knowns kind of thing, like, you know, I don't know what to ask. What shall I?
That's I really can't remember. All I can remember is before asking them going, I'm sorry, I know this is going to be a dumb question, and then asking it. So, but I can't remember.
No, don't worry.
I remember before I started, because it was the first time that I moved to Cardiff, you know, I'd been in Edinburgh for such a long time, and emailing someone from recruitment and basically asking where are the areas I should avoid when I'm looking for a flat. And, you know, what's a good area, what's a bad area, where should I be looking? And got a whole list that I think had been passed around various people to see if anyone had thoughts on all these different areas. So again, just super practical stuff like that, super handy. And then I guess in terms of before joining, I mean, I think most of our departments, the training is, you know, there's no expectation of knowledge before you arrive, but obviously anything you have is helpful. So, you know, I've never coded in SAS or SQL, which are 2 of the languages that we use a lot of. And so all of the training is obviously from the assumption that you've never used them before. But if you want to do, you know, a quick crash, you know, just a free course online that just quickly introduces you to some of the concepts, then it's definitely not going to hurt. And then just things like do a couple of insurance quotes online, go onto a comparison site, do some quotes, play about with the numbers. If you say that you're driving 20,000 miles, what does that do to the price? If you change where you live, does that increase, does that decrease the price? Things like that, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at in pricing and what is causing prices to change. All of that knowledge is going to be super helpful and will help you out when you start.
That's really good, Adam.
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Adam. And you touched on training there, Adam. Is there anything specifically, Daniel, back to you, that training wise that you've had that you've really enjoyed, that you think, oh, graduates are going to enjoy this when they start at Admiral?
So yeah, very similar to Adam, I never coded in SAS or SQL before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been really useful and really enjoyable learning how to do that. It's a very useful skill to pick up, and it's pretty much an industry standard. So if you end up going to another company, you've still got those skills that you can take on with you. Yeah, I was given my own pace to learn it. There was no like pressure to get it done by this date, and still, like, even now I'm still learning new things. Even like 7 or 8 months on, I'm still learning new ways of using these programs.
So I'm going to ask a technical question that I don't know the answer to, obviously, but SAS and SQL that you've just mentioned. So why has Admiral chosen to use that code in particular then? If nobody's had any experience of that in the past, why is that code so important to Admiral, do you think?
Adam, do you know the answer to this?
Yeah, I think it's as Daniel said, I think it is a fairly industry standard for looking at databases. So databases aren't the most exciting computer science thing in the world. So I think a lot of people would choose to do other languages that are more, you know, you can write some code that'll make a game or do something more exciting like Python or something like that. For the business world, I think if you're querying databases, which I think is what a lot of businesses end up using their coding for, and it's what Admiral uses, SAS and SQL are fairly standard for that side of things. So yeah, maybe it's not something that people have had direct experience of this language before, but if you've had any coding experience, it's very easy to pick up, I'd say.
Perfect. And just think about extracurricular activities then. So I know, George, you mentioned at the beginning about the volunteering and things like that. Is there anything, and Sam, you can chip in on this one as well, is there anything that you get involved with at Admiral that really showcases, who they are, what they do, like networking groups and things like that? Is there anything that you get involved with? George, I'm going to pick on you. You haven't spoken for a bit.
Yeah, so I asked about this about 2 months ago and found out that you couldn't start it until you passed your probation period, which I only passed this morning. So
oh, congratulations!
Thank you. But they do push for self-improvement, because I asked about the Chartered Institute of Insurers certificate,
right,
which is it's a qualification that's just industry standard, just to understand what insurance is and basically why we do it. It's got a few exams. It's basically just a qualification to go alongside the job. And when I asked about it, Admiral said they would sponsor me through it and basically pay for the exams and any materials I would need and anything. So they do want you to seek out these things, find them, do them, and self-improvement seems like a massive thing.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, brilliant.
Which is amazing. And the other thing is I've never been much of a public speaker. So having the opportunity to do things like this, speaking to people and speaking to a group of people is it's a nice change as well. It's a nice something to do to sort of challenge yourself. So they really do sort of put you forward for things. So
well, you're very good at it, George.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that we've been together for a whole hour, more than an hour, and you've only just mentioned about your probation.
Yeah, it didn't seem like a time to bring it up.
Oh, I don't know. If it was me, I'd be like, can I just tell everybody, please? I've just passed my probation. Daniel, is there anything that you want to add to that? So anything that you do, like networking or any learning development that you've been involved with that you thought that was really well delivered?
Not quite yet, to be honest.
No, that's fine.
But that's because I've been trying to understand really like my job and get more into my role. But then that speaks to the whole thing with Admiral about how it's all at your own pace and when you feel ready to move on to other stuff. I've been in quite a lot of protocols recently, actually, like Sam mentioned, because I'm quite interested in learning like what other departments within the company does. It's been really useful to just sort of like map out how the industry works and how Admiral itself works as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, Daniel. I mean, it's like learning at your own pace as well. I think that's really shows who you are as an individual and at Admiral as well. So I think that's brilliant. And I really like the idea that you can get to know about other departments there, because I think I always say this as part of the webinars, but the more that you know about the company in general, then it makes you do your job better, I always find. So it's really good that they give you that opportunity. So thanks, Daniel. Adam, did you have anything to finish off with?
Yeah, I think this will end up sounding like me tooting my own horn, but we'll come around to that.
Toot away, love, toot away.
So in international pricing, we run pricing training weeks. So essentially you'll do 6 months worth of training or so within your own department. Again, it varies very much department to department, but within our department anyway, you'll do kind of 6 months of training, and that covers, coding, the business knowledge side of things, and then some pricing training to get used to kind of the day-to-day work. And then at the end of that, we run a 1 week that kind of condenses all of that pricing knowledge that you've been doing over the last couple of months into just a week's worth of talks and presentations and a kind of practice exercise to do as well as part of that. And so I think going on that myself was incredibly useful. You've done it all over the last couple of months, but when it's spread out like that, sometimes little things slip through the cracks, or you're not quite sure about something and you're new and you're scared to ask about it or whatever it might be. And so taking all of that knowledge and just putting it into 1 week where you can just ask any questions that you've been thinking about or anything like that over the last couple of months is really helpful. And so eventually I'm now helping to kind of run those now as part of the team. And so I think that's the other thing. Quite quickly, again, I can only speak for our team, but you get given kind of mentor positions where you're able to help people through their training. And I think that selfishly is also very helpful for you. If you go back and you look at the work from a different point of view and try to think, what are the challenges that people have here and how do I explain that better? When you get used to being able to explain it better, you get a better understanding of it yourself as well. And so I think all of that from both sides of the training aspect, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And I know this sounds a little bit unfair, especially to the people who've only been there for a couple of months, but future plans, Adam, just same with you, what are your future plans?
Yeah, so currently just started kind of a new big project in the US, another one of these machine learning models. They're definitely very in fashion just now in Admiral, anything all over the place. So working to kind of take that and replace some of the parts of our pricing structure with these new models, and kind of use that as the basis of our price. So a big project and lots of collaboration with other departments. So again, knowing what everyone else does is super helpful to know who to talk to when you've got problems. But yeah, that's kind of the next 6 months or so for me.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. George, any plans for the future? I know you've just mentioned, I think you're just like, I can't, I'm just past my probation, love, just chill out. But have you got a dream that you want to fulfill?
Well, I do want to do more of these CII certifications and everything, because it does seem like it will definitely benefit. But to be honest, passing probation was the first future hurdle. So now I've got to pick my next one, but we'll see.
Yeah. Getting yourself a pint after you finish work.
That
should be, yeah, definitely for the future. And Daniel, anything that you want to finish off with?
Yeah, similar to George, I only quite recently passed my probation.
Yay!
But yeah, I'm just looking forward to like getting more responsibility and dealing with more certain areas of the company and just learning more about the industry as well.
Perfect. Your roles sound absolutely brilliant. Sam, so we've obviously inspired students to apply to your opportunities. Is there anything that you want to finish off with, like hints and tips, or the application process, how that's looking this year?
Yeah, so get on our hub on GradCracker, get your applications in is what I'd ultimately say.
Yeah.
A lot of it may still be a bit virtual. I've mentioned already, we'll sift your application. There may be a numeracy test and you'll meet with our hiring managers then for interview. In terms of, some golden tips, we've got the hub available with a lot of information. Yeah. So, do your research, read the information on the GradCracker hub to see what's already out there. Do your research on the company. Make sure you're reading your job adverts and tailoring your application to suit that job advert. You really can't have a blanket approach when it comes to CV and application writing, unfortunately, and tailoring your CV will make you stand out as a candidate. Practice before jumping in, practice numerical stuff before jumping in and taking the test and not just winging it when you open that link. And same applies to interview, try and get some practice in, rehearse your answers. And a big one Adam's mentioned is, look at our products, run some insurance quotes, get a feel for how the rating works. I'd say that's a real golden tip to take away from today. So yeah, just do your research and prepare and tailor stuff as much as you can is what I tend to say until I'm blue in the face.
Yeah, I bet you do. I think it's tailoring to Admiral and tailoring to the sector as well, isn't it? Just to show that you do have a lot of passion, that you do want to get involved in the sector that you're in. And yeah, like Sam mentioned, there's lots and lots of useful information on the Admiral Hub on GradCracker. So make sure you watch this webinar again. It'll be live on the Hub tomorrow as a full webinar, and we'll also break it down to bite-sized chunks, which will be available on the Hub and in the Career Centre as well.
Alec, just one more point. Sorry,
I knew you were going to say something. You were like this.
I just really wanted to double check this. So, Sam, if anyone's going through the application process and they start the numerical test, do they have to start it and complete it in a oneer, or can they come back to it within those 3 days?
Good question. So yeah, you once you open that link and press start, that's it.
Right, be in the right headspace, in the right,
make sure you've got quiet time set aside, your equipment's working, you've got stable internet connection, all those typical things, no disturbances. And if you need more time and you're not ready, or if you're poorly or something, let us know. We can then send it to you at a later date. We'll work with you so you're in the right frame of mind, basically.
Awesome. Sorry, Carla, I just wanted to
Good question. I saw you holding your breath. I was like, Jess's got something to say before she turns blue. Along with Sam, so then she's blue in the face about tailoring your application. Perfect. So thank you, everybody. Congratulations to you all. You've passed your probation, been promoted. You've had fantastic experiences. So well done, guys. It's been a brilliant webinar. I am leaving you for next week. Sophie and Jessica are going to be holding the webinar.
Back.
Sophie's back. And
maternity leave, so we're all excited to have Sophie back.
yes, Sophie's back from maternity leave, and I am off to Crufts.
Woo woo!
I know, it's exciting, isn't it? Sam will chat afterwards. So join Sophie and Jess next week, who'll be joined by Robbie and ITV. So for now, remember what Sam said, get your applications in, look at the Admiral Hub, and we'll see you all later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.